turning around. The women's basketball team is 6-3 since Christmas break. Comeback Kids, the men's basketball team, is currently sitting in third in the RSC East Division. And is that really necessary? Our reporters will debate on whether or not the NHL should implement the one-game suspension for athletes who opt out of the All-Star game. It's time to come on down to the Pioneer Sideline. Good evening and welcome to the Pioneer Sideline. I'm Taylor Spirito. To begin our first official episode since the semester break, we bring in our resident cheer and dance expert and student athlete, Kiera Fry. Kiera, thanks for joining me.
Thanks for having me.
So like I said, you're the resident cheer and dance expert, okay? So how did the cheer team do over break and since we've come back?
So we had a break this last weekend. Cheer did not compete, but the weekend before that, we had back-to-back competitions on Friday and Saturday. Friday was actually our first home competition at Point Park's campus, which was really exciting for us, and we did really well. And I think that's partially credited to having our friends and our family there to cheer us on and just being in our home gym where we practice and where we're really comfortable. So we were able to score in the high 80s all 3 times that we competed with the routine. So we did 3 rounds of competition all on the same day. Which is really good for us. We weren't expecting to get scores quite that high, so it was really nice to see that. And we competed against a newer team to the NAIA, which was also really exciting. They were excited to be there and get their first competition under their belt as well. And then dance team, they just competed this past weekend, which was also kind of a midpoint for them in their season. They took 4th at the Siena Heights Classic, and they got a score of 66, which was a little lower than they were expecting, but it helped us identify a lot of things that we want to work on moving forward in different ways that we can make the routine harder as we continue.
Now you guys have a lot of practices throughout the week, and part of that is also, you know, at halftime at the basketball games. So how has performing at halftime during the men's and women's basketball games, how has that helped you prepare for your competitions?
The main way that performing at basketball games helps us is just being comfortable performing in front of a big group of people. And when we practice by ourselves, there's not really a way to do that. So even though our competition routines are different from the routines that we do at basketball games, it's really nice to get that experience, and especially for freshmen, just getting in front of people, being comfortable doing different routines and being used to working together like that. And I know that dance team at just this past basketball game, they actually did their competition routine, which is nice that they're able to do that because cheer isn't, just due to regulations and not having mats on the floor. But they actually did their competition routine, and it was a huge preparing point for them to get ready for this past weekend because they got to do their routine on a familiar court, a familiar place with people that support them in front of them, which definitely made them a little bit more comfortable getting ready to compete again.
Now you hinted at this already, but I want you to dive a little bit deeper because not a lot of people know what the difference is between performing at, you know, those halftime performances versus competing at your competitions and performing at your competitions. So can you touch on the difference between those?
Absolutely. So our competition routines have a set time frame that they're supposed to be, normally 2.5 minutes to 3 minutes long, and there are certain components that we have to hit, like there are different categories on the score sheet. So everything that's in that routine is in there for a reason, and it has to be executed by the whole group to a certain perfectibility, I guess. Whereas the dances that we do at the games are honestly just fun little things that we get to do. They're shorter. They might just be one genre, whereas in the dance team routine, they have to do 3 different genres of dance in their competition routine. So it's like a little snippet from their routine, really, for them. And for cheer, for competitions, we have the mats under us, which opens us up to being able to do a lot of different things. Like we can do basket tosses, 2 high pyramids, and a lot more tumbling. So it's really just the difficulty level that changes.
Now what's next for the cheer and dance teams? You got a lot coming up, right?
Yeah, so our first competition that's coming up is actually this weekend. We're going to be traveling to Erie, which is something that we haven't done before. We're participating in the Spirit Against Cancer competition at PSU Barron, which is really exciting. It's not going to count towards our NAIA scores, but all of the proceeds are going towards a cancer organization.
All right, well, thank you very much, Kiera, and of course, good luck this weekend.
Thank you.
It wouldn't be a new semester unless our senior mascot correspondent was brought in to break down what we missed in the mascot world over break. Sarah Gibson, take it away.
Thanks, Taylor. Hello and welcome to Mascot Mania. I'm Sarah Gibson. We start out tonight's segment with news about everyone's favorite furry flyer, Gritty himself. For those of you who are out of the loop, Gritty found himself in a bit of hot water this week as he is currently being investigated in a criminal assault lawsuit. At a season ticket holder exclusive event at the Wells Fargo Center in November, Chris Greenwell, a Flyer season ticket holder, alleges that Gritty punched his 13-year-old son, Brandon, in the back. No cameras were able to capture the alleged incident, and a spokesperson from the Flyers says that the claim is unsubstantiated. And to get this out of the way, as a person, I do not think you should beat up kids. I hope this kid's okay. Don't assault children. But, as the senior mascot correspondent, I think this lawsuit is just a matter of Gritty earning his stripes. Philly mascots like the Fanatic and Gritty are well known for having, well, grit. The Fanatic is exceptional at this. He's the most sued mascot in mascot history, but Gritty? He's been slacking. He's funny on Twitter. He has a squeaky belly button. But where is the grit in Gritty? I'll be following this story closely and will make sure to give you updates as they become available. And moving on to our mascot of the week, this is the very first time our MOTW has been from professional sports. It's Youppi. I'm sure you remember last semester when I advocated for Youppi to be inducted into the Mascot Hall of Fame. I urged you all to vote for him, and I got my wish. Youppi won. While he hasn't been inducted yet, he will be in June, and I can't wait to see it. He truly deserves it. And to close out this semester's first Mascot Mania segment, I do have a special message for the man of the hour, Youppi. Youppi, félicitations de moi et mes amis du Pioneer Sideline. Back to you, Taylor.
I love it when you speak French. Thanks, Sarah. After the break, our reporters will talk all things basketball, so don't go anywhere.
Go. Go to our new website, uview.pointpark.edu.
Go, 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 go!
Join UView and find your herd.
Be like, join EOP. And 3, 2, join EOP.
I was just saying, grab them now, or else I can listen.
Yeah.
Join on point with politics.
3, 2, 1.
Join Pioneer Sideline.
Loneliest number that you'll ever do.
Welcome back. The women's basketball team kept busy over break, turning their 7-7 record to a 13-9 record. To give us the details from the games that we missed, Kiera Fry is back in studio. Kiera, welcome back.
Thank you.
So give us a quick rundown of the games that we missed.
Okay, so over this past weekend, the Pioneers were busy. They lost to Brussia on Friday, 76-55. At first, it was like a very back and forth game, but Brussia eventually got the lead. And then they played again on Sunday at CCAC again. They beat IU Southeast, made a little comeback. They won 80-76, and they really just came together as a team in that game, and that's what I think personally put them ahead. They seemed that they were clicking a lot better on Sunday versus on Friday.
Now, we've got some big names to look out for on this team, and one of them that we've talked about throughout her time here, even when she was a freshman, is Michelle Burns. She just hit the 1,000-point milestone, a big moment for her. What has she meant to this team, not even just this season, but during her whole time here at Point Park?
Michelle has meant a lot to women's basketball at Point Park. Since she got here as a freshman, she was a starter, and she had a great season just from the start. I mean, her freshman year, she was a high scorer for the team, and right now she has 4 rankings in the NAIA, above 30 in the rankings. And for the Point Park Pioneers, she's also the leading scorer. She leads in assists and she leads in steals. So she's just a key component of this team.
And then another big name, first of all, congrats to her for reaching that 1,000 point milestone. But another big name we want to bring up is Tyra James. She tied the school record in 3-pointers with 191. Can you talk about what she's also meant to this team?
Tyra has also been a very key player for this team. She, not only with her playing ability, but she also is just really energetic in the games, and you can see her kind of hyping everybody up when she gets into the game, which is really nice to see. And sometimes you can tell that that's what she needs, what they need, and she brings that to the table. But Tyra scored her 3-pointer at the end of the 3rd quarter at the buzzer. It was amazing. A bunch of her teammates ran to the court, and seeing that, you kind of saw how much she means to them, not only as a player, but also as a leader for this team.
And you touched on it. Again, you're just stealing all my points here. So 2 big milestones for 2 really big hitters on this women's basketball team. So how does that speak to the team as a whole and how they're playing this season?
I think it definitely shows that the team has a lot of drive because they're clearly pushing each other and supporting each other. Like I said, with Tyra scoring her last 3-pointer to tie the school record, you just see so much support and pushing each other to be better, and I think that's really what's helping this women's team improve as the season goes on.
All right, so what's next for the women's basketball team?
So up next, they're going to be on the road. This Thursday, they play at Asbury on January 30th, and then they have another away game on Saturday, February 1st against Alice Lloyd.
All right, thank you so much again, Kiera. The men have also been lining up the court since we last checked in. Colton Tobias is in studio with everything that you need to know about men's basketball. Colton, thanks for joining me.
Thank you so much, Taylor. It's great to be back.
So give us a rundown of the games, first of all.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, so sure, it's Taylor. So like Kiera said, the men's side of the ball had a busy weekend as well. First off, coming off a big win against Brussia, and actually the first time that the Pioneers have beaten Brussia since February 24th of 2016, 86-69. Now, I missed this game because I was in Washington, D.C., but it was just an overall great performance by the Pioneers. Sharon Shafino was the leading scorer for the Pioneers with 19 points, and he also tied with Adam Scott for the most rebounds with 10. And the Pioneers had a lot of big rebounds. They had 52 overall in the game, and then they pretty much ran away with it at halftime. Now, Sunday's game is going to be a game that they're going to probably wish to they're going to probably wish to forget. A unfortunate loss to IU Southeast, 84-61. I was on the call for this game on the Point Park Sports Network. The Pioneers started off the game so strong, and then IU Southeast went on an 18-2 run to end the half, and they never looked back. And the Pioneers did have a few chances to get back into the game, but IU Southeast has just continued to run it down their throats, and then they ended up with the win.
And we'll talk about giving up those big leads, in a little bit. But first, I want to get into the depth on the men's bench. You talked about Shafino and how he's been absolutely lighting up this, the court and has been really a big asset to his team. But talk about the depth that they have. It's not just him. Who else is out there putting in the work?
Well, Cameron Shockley, Taylor, I think, has been a phenomenal player. He knows how to drill those threes, and that's something that I didn't understand with Sunday's game, because he didn't take a lot of threes, and the Pioneers also had trouble moving the ball around. But nonetheless, Gary McHenry is also a great player. He had a few threes as well. Adam Scott, and we said Sharon Shafino, Xavier Prince has had a lot of cool dunks this season. So I am really excited about the future for the Pioneers, because there's still a long season left. And I think with a game on Sunday, the Pioneers just have to move on from it and just look forward to the next games coming up here.
And sticking with the positives, they have had some big wins as of recent. The ones that they have let up, let's not talk about those right now. How have they been able to pull off these big wins that they have had?
Well, I just think that they have just stick to their game plan. And the game that comes to mind is when they face IU East. IU East was coming off. They were in first place in the River States Conference East Division, and the Pioneers just controlled the game. They controlled offense. They controlled the offensive side of the ball, and they also controlled the defensive side of the ball, getting those big plays they needed. But also IU East, they were close to coming back, so the Pioneers had a little scare there, but they were able to capitalize and come up with that big win a few weeks ago, and just probably one of the more memorable games I've called here during my time at Point Park.
If they would have let up that lead, it would have been, one of those games that they just gave up on. They've been notorious for that this season. How can they stop doing that going forward?
Well, I just think that they just have to take it one game at a time, because from here on out, it's going to be all River State's conference games. So every single game is going to be pivotal for the Pioneers, as they currently sit in a third place in the River State's Conference East Division with a 4-4 River State's conference record. So these games are going to be very vital throughout the stretch here if the Pioneers want to go back to the playoffs for a second consecutive year.
And what is next for the Pioneers? They've got a lot at stake. What do they got coming up on the schedule?
The Pioneers will be back in action this Thursday at Asbury, and Asbury is 1-8 in River State's conference play. So hopefully the Pioneers can come up with a win there, and then they will stay in Kentucky to face Alice Lloyd, who is currently 4-5 in River State's conference play.
All right, thank you so much, Colton. Thanks for joining me. When we come back, we'll dive into the regional and national headlines from the week. All that and more after this.
What's one word to describe CAB?
Welcoming.
Community.
Creative.
Experiences.
Family. Openness.
Pineapple.
The Campus Activities Board is a student-run organization that consists of 7 different committees. Each focuses on event planning, marketing, and administrative activities. Join us in organizing the juiciest events on campus, from late-night bingo to festive dances to our team bonding meetings. Follow us on Twitter and Instagram at Point Park Cap, or like us on Facebook at Campus Activities Board at Point Park University.
Good evening and welcome to Newsnight. I'm Josh Troop alongside Jess Paterchak.
Defending his decision to kick out 15 Cuban diplomats from the United States.
Thanks, Allison. Fitness on Demand has returned to Point Park.
Residents fear that Mount Agung will have a repeat of 1963's eruption.
2-star NFL quarterbacks made the headlines this week after wrapping up.
Well, thank you so much for joining us this evening. That's your news tonight. For Nick Tomarello, I'm Alex Grubbs. Have a great night.
Welcome back. We've updated you on all of the happenings of Point Park sports over break, and now it's time for an update from the Black and Gold. Colton Tobias joins us in studio to give us the regional headlines from over break. Colton?
Thanks, Taylor. It was All-Star Weekend for the NFL and the NHL this past weekend, and the city of Pittsburgh was well represented. The NHL All-Star Game on Saturday featured Penguins defenseman Chris Letang and Penguins goalie Tristan Jarry. This was Jarry's first All-Star Game, while Letang competed in his 6th as he passed Paul Coffey for the most All-Star appearances by a Pens defenseman, according to NHL.com. Jarry was in goal for the Metropolitan team during the second period, and Letang played on defense as well. However, the Metropolitan did fall to the Atlantic Division in the semifinal game, 9-5. Jarry and Letang are back in Pittsburgh as they will attempt to get revenge on the Philadelphia Flyers at PBG Paints Arena on Friday night. And down in Orlando, there were 4 Steelers that suited up for the Pro Bowl as the AFC defeated the NFC 38-30. The Steelers players, who attended the game were TJ Watt, Cam Hayward, Minka Fitzpatrick, and Joe Hayden. They all made an impact on the game in some way, as according to SteelersDepot.com, TJ Watt ran a fumble recovery back 82 yards after a strip sack off of Kirk Cousins, which was made by Calais Campbell. Joe out an interception out of all people, Ezekiel Elliott in the third quarter, while also being credited with 2 tackles. And Minka Fitzpatrick and Cam Hayward were each credited with a tackle and a pass breakup. And Starling Marte's 13-year run with the Pirates organization came to an end on Monday as they traded him to the Arizona Diamondbacks for right-handed pitcher Brendan Malone and shortstop Lovier Peguero, who are both prospects, according to ESPN. The Pirates will also receive $250,000 in international signing bonus pool money. With this trade, the Pirates' payroll now drops to under $50 million, the third lowest in the major leagues, according to SportRack.com. That's all I have for regional sports news. Back to Taylor at the desk.
Thanks, Colton. Transitioning from regional to national, the sports world was hit hard just this past week with the loss of NBA star Kobe Bryant. 2 days ago, it was announced that Bryant, along with his 13-year-old daughter Gianna, along with 7 others, were killed in a helicopter crash. The helicopter, which held 2 of Gianna's teammates as well as their parents, was on its way to a Mamba basketball tournament when it crashed just outside of Calabasas. Since their passing, NBA teams, celebrities, former teammates, and the public have come together for various tributes and ceremonies honoring the lives of Bryant and the others who lost their lives in the crash. The UConn women's basketball team, the team that Gianna wanted to play for in college, left a Huskies #2 jersey on their bench with flowers ahead of their game last night to honor the rising basketball star. Since the Grammys were held at Bryant's old home of the Staples Center, the Global Music Awards ceremony also honored Bryant ahead of and during the ceremony. After the break, we debate. We'll be back.
The United Student Government at Point Park University, working since the 1970s to solve the issues that matter to you. What concerns do you have about the university? Student life, safety, food service? Send us an email to studentconcerns@pointpark.edu or stop by our office on the 7th floor of the Student Center. You can also attend our weekly open meetings on Mondays at 3:15. Follow us on social media at USG_PPU for more. The United Student Government, by the students, for the students.
The Point Park Sports Network, bringing you live coverage of Pioneer Athletics on Stretch Internet, the home of the River States Conference and the NAIA. Subscribe today for complete access to the Point Park volleyball, baseball, basketball, and soccer teams. Watch live and on-demand broadcasts and don't miss a minute of Point Park Athletics. Head to pointparksports.com/live for broadcast listings. The Point Park Sports Network, your streaming home for Point Park Athletics.
3, 2, 1.
Please visit our website. Please, it's a nice website. Please visit our website. Please.
If you have ever watched television, whether accidentally or on purpose, UView is for you.
Welcome back to Sideline. It's time for everyone's favorite segment, the Case of the Week. This week, is the one-game suspension NHL athletes face after opting out of the All-Star Game serious or silly? To debate, we bring in Ray Hasenstab and RJ Garrison. Now, guys, I just want your honest opinion. Keep it short and simple for right now, and then we'll get into it. Is it worth it? Or I don't want to say worth it. Is it necessary to suspend these guys for one game if they opt out of it?
It's reasonable.
No, it's really not. It's stupid.
All right. Define reasonable.
Well, you've been asked to represent for your team, in this case your division, and most importantly, the league overall, specifically talking about Alex Ovechkin, who's opted out of the past 2. And I read earlier that Bill Daly has even commented on this because Ovechkin has become such a big star in the league and has skipped the past 2 All-Star games. I don't get why. Again, he said that, Ovechkin said that he's doing this to preserve his health and he's getting older, but at the same time, you had a couple guys who were in that kind of range also playing, which to me doesn't really make sense. Like before he opted out, Marc-Andre Fleury, but he said he was going to opt out because of family, which is a little more understandable.
His dad did just pass away, and it was very hard on him, especially with the dad's trip for Vegas being right after that. So that's a little
unbelievably hard.
Yeah, that's definitely understandable on his end. RJ, what's your stance on this?
Them getting suspended is, I think, an overreaction by the league. Yes, you want to show off the best that your league has to offer. You want to show the All-Stars. That's why it's called the All-Stars game. But at the same time, the game means nothing. Absolutely nothing. It has no bearing on who gets any type of advantage in the playoffs. It's just a showcase of what the league has, and frankly, showing teams and players in real games that they actually care about shows them at a much higher level than the All-Stars. If you truly want to have a back-to-back, put in a women's tournament the first game, and then have a full day of skills competition to show off the skills that you're so proud of.
Well, the thing is that I argue that with is the players who win on the winning team, I think it's either each or collective $1 million for that team. I did not check that before it came in. That's on me. But the MVP also gets a car. I believe it's a Honda SUV because Honda's also sponsoring the All-Star game.
Makes sense.
Don't quote me on that, but you're getting both of those if you're the MVP and then if your team wins. So I don't see why it's like that's there waiting for you. Just go.
Yes, but most of the contracts that these All-Stars have are at least, I'd say, triple the amount of a full winnings.
If they are the real All-Stars that they vote in.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And do we really think they need a Honda SUV with the money that they're able to do? They could buy it and still have money left over for gas for like 10 years.
But in some cases, even though he was not named All-Star MVP, like Tristan Jarry this year, he's not making that kind of money yet.
But he's going to easily.
But with that kind of money, had they won, it would have probably helped him out. And you also have to figure, I'm thinking like the Jack Johnson contract, the Cody Ceci contract for Toronto. There are some players who are definitely not All-Stars getting a lot more money than what these guys who are going to will make. Yes, you'll have the exceptions like the McDavids, the Matthews, and the Pasternaks, but you also get the guys who are just making it and not really making that much. Again, Jarry was the first name that came to my mind in that regard.
Now, another point that we want to bring up is that at least 2 players opted out of the games this year with Marc-Andre Fleury and Alex Ovechkin, like we mentioned. But there were a few players who either opted out, not exactly saying, hey, I'm just not going to play. They said, hey, we're injured. Matthews is an example that he had a wrist injury. He wanted to rest it.
Yeah.
And a few more players.
Yeah, Kemper, another 2 names. He just mentioned Kemper, but also Korpisalo. In that case, you have to see, they can't play the game before or the game after. Like with Kemper, he's been sidelined for a little while now, and Korpisalo has been sidelined for around a month. So and then Matthews, the wrist injury might keep him out of the next game after the All-Star break, might not. We don't know, but it kept him out of the game beforehand. So in that case, it's understandable because that suspension is spent instead trying to heal up whatever injury unfortunately happened to them.
But is it going to show with the NHL, do you think they're going to take notice that these injuries, it seems to have just kind of been popping up right before the All-Star break, and then the players say, hey, I'm injured, I can't exactly participate?
In no way. If you're injured, you can't play anyways. It's more, I think it would be more impactful if they did the suspension of the players who can play but opt out versus those who cannot play. There's a difference.
And RJ, I want to ask you real quick because you said that the suspension is completely ridiculous. Paraphrasing, of course. What is a suitable, I don't want to say punishment for these players, but what is a suitable action to take if they opt out of the All-Star game? Just say, you know what, I don't want to go. Because it does reflect badly on the NHL if their star players say, well, I don't want to be part of this that's being put on by the league. So what is something that can be done that's not the 1-game suspension to these players?
Frankly, I don't think there should be a punishment at all, especially if they're using the time to heal up any injuries, possibly, especially if you're a team that's looking for playoffs like Toronto, Washington, the Penguins. Heal up from the injuries for the games that actually matter, or take some time and spend with the family, something else that the league seems to like to push.
Another name that I wanted to mention, since he brought up the Penguins, was Jake Gensel. That's going to be a tough one for the Penguins' stomach, but he was named an All-Star, got injured, and he basically is done the rest of the year. So there's no.
But that's not an injury that came up right before the All-Star break. That's something that we all saw him ram into the boards. You know what I mean?
It hurts just to watch.
I still think a lot of the players play through these injuries for the games that matter, and then they say, hey, the All-Star game doesn't mean anything. I'm going to have it go checked out, and then they find out that they have these injuries that they've been playing through.
All right, very fair points. Thank you both for joining us on Case of the Week. I thought that was productive. That's all the time we have for today. Thank you for joining us. Be sure to join us next week at the same Pioneer time, the same Pioneer channel, and the same Pioneer Sideline.